It was a riveting opening weekend in MLB. Here are just a few highlights. The Rangers absolutely owned the Phillies, scoring 29 runs in a 3-game sweep. The Mets took 3 of 4 in Miami as Kodai Senga had a nice debut on Sunday. And with the new pitch clock, game times decreased by an average of 30 minutes. I think that's good news for all of us. Anthony Dabbundo may disagree since he went to a game and apparently thought it felt like it was too short. But I think when you're watching it on TV, it's certainly nice to have it ending in, closer to 2.5 hours. But Anthony, you can respond to that if you want. But the real reason we have you guys here is we want to get a little early pulse of the stock market, if you will. Give me a team who you think their stock is up and a team whose stock is down.
Yeah, I was at Nats Park Saturday for Braves Nationals, 2 hours and 23 minutes. It did feel almost too fast, but certainly in terms of getting action in, you were more locked in and dialed into the action, which some baseball fans will love. And I think others that want a nice night out at the park will find a bit jarring early on in the season. Excited for the Phils to be home this week. That being said, I think the Cardinals are absolutely a stock up team. If you go back and look at some of the lineups they were putting out in the second half of the season, it was pretty remarkable that they ended up with the offensive production that they did, because they didn't really have a ton of depth, and it was a lot of relying on Goldschmidt and Arenado in the middle of the order with the two, dynamo hitters. But they have so much more depth this year, and I think it's already shown, beating up on Toronto's pitching staff all weekend long. They took 2 out of 3 from the Blue Jays. They have the ability to platoon their designated hitter with Nolan Gorman, the lefty, and Juan Yepez, the righty. I think it's a very powerful platoon of 2 young guys that have a lot of potential as hitters, especially, even if they're maybe a little bit questionable in the field. They can hide them. They can DH them. Brendan Donovan and Lars Nootbaar were 2 of my favorite breakout candidates this season coming in. Both have excellent plate skills. Both, or Donovan especially, showed increased power. Nootbaar is dinged up right now, did not play the weekend, but another guy that I'm buying this season. So you look at this lineup from top to bottom, and it's a very impressive group. It's really going to come down to the starting pitching for how much of a ceiling St. Louis has. But for my money, I think they're going to roll in this National League Central, just because I don't think anyone has the bats to consistently keep up with this Cardinals lineup.
Okay, and who are you down on at this early point in the season?
Yeah, I try not to read too much into early season, hitting trends, but I'm certainly a little worried about the lineups that Seattle's been putting out there. Yes, you go up against the Guardians, who are, one of the best run prevention teams in the entire league, but the bottom half of the Mariners order, they really didn't do a lot to address it. There are a lot of holes at the bottom. They're relying on guys like Jared Kelenic finally breaking through, and I'm just not too much of a believer in that. Teoscar Hernandez is the big offseason addition, but a huge Park downgrade for him. I think his power numbers could go down, and they really struggled to hit for large parts of the weekend until they saw Cal Quantrill on Sunday. So I think the Mariners' hype as like a World Series long shot is a little overwarranted, because I just don't quite see the lineup there. Of course, they could change between now and the end of the season, but a lackluster start for the Mariners.
All right, Charlie, over to you. A team whose stock is up and a team whose stock is down.
Right. I'm going to go with the Minnesota Twins as my stock up. I wrote about them making the playoffs and having value this offseason. Obviously it's the Kansas City Royals, but a nice sweep where they give up just 4 runs is something that you shouldn't bat an eye at. Their pitching rotation is shaping up to be very strong, with Tyler Mahle as the number 4 starter. And I thought he could have been a top of the line starter in the bigs down the road or over the last couple of years. So now he's there. Their pitching rotation has been great. And I think the biggest thing was that they got Carlos Correa, brought him back. The offense is playing great. Byron Buxton, as long as he stays healthy, this lineup is going to have a couple of dominant bats in the middle of the lineup to give some issues. Cleveland Guardians have been like the number 1 team in the AL Central, but I think the Twins really give them a run for their money. And a team I'm down on, the Philadelphia Phillies. I've been saying all offseason, I'm on their under. I don't think they're going to shape up well. We took a team that barely made the playoffs with such a high payroll, and they made a run in the playoffs, right? That's playoffs. Anything can happen. We've seen Cinderella runs. We see San Diego State in the national championship in college basketball. The Phillies made that run, but they had an extremely high payroll, and they lost Rhys Hoskins for the year. Bryce Harper's out for the first few months. You have to curtail your expectations a bit. I'm not worried about Aaron Nola or Zach Wheeler, but I am worried about the Phillies bullpen. They've always had some issues, but a minus 18 run differential in the opening series against Texas, even while the Rangers, Jacob deGrom got hit hard, is something that you should be a little bit concerned about. So I think the Phillies are going to end up, walking into that third, maybe fourth place in the NL East. And I don't think this is the same team we saw last year.
Oh, I think rightfully so. You're concerned about the Phillies. A lot of people, that's been the talk kind of going into this season and how they could possibly replicate the run that they had going into, or I should say at the end of last season.